law of attraction and COVID-19. Okay, so just pretend for now that I'm an expert at law of attraction. Okay, everyone knows this idea, law of attraction? No? Oh, well, it's been in New Age circles for quite a long time. There was a movie, God, maybe it was 20 years ago, called The Secret, and it was about law of attraction. What can we learn from the movie The Secret about law of attraction? I can't remember anything about the law of attraction. I know that was in the movie, but the one thing I remember that sort of shows us that we live in a matrix, like the Matrix movie's existence, was at the beginning of the movie. There was a scene where it looked like things were manifesting out of thin air, like, you know, I think it was something to do with a basketball court. And it just gave us the idea that, you know, well, anyway, I'm going to leave that one for another day. But let's pretend that we're going back to the original talk, and that's about law of attraction and COVID-19. So, one of my, a different pandit. A pandit is a religious expert in India. So instead of just being like an expert on religion, just we're going to say pandit is a well-learned professor kind of person of a certain subject. So I'm Pandit, and Pandit says, okay, so according to Pandit says, I don't care if this is right or wrong. He says, I don't have to believe in law of attraction is right or wrong, truth or false, partly true. I am simply going to give you a scholarly look at the information that's presented, called law of attraction, and the information that I've gathered from various sources of existing scholars. For example, Abraham Hicks is a very famous teacher of the law of attraction. Is it a theory? They say it's a law. I don't listen to them. I couldn't tell you. Maybe one time they said it's a theory, but there's a big difference between a law and a theory in science. Big difference in an idea, because a law is absolute in our reality. So I think it was called Boyle's Law, was a law about gases. I think it was something to do with, it was a formula for gases, for expansion of gases based upon the kind of molecules in the gas, and the temperature, for sure the temperature, and the amount of space that that particular amount of molecules of gas is going to take up. That's a law, because that actually is empirically produced. In other words, it actually agrees 100% with what we experience in our reality. It's not a theory. It's like, theory is like when you got a hunch that this might be right, but you're not sure. That's a theory. And law is actually empirical. In other words, that's like 100% true all the time in our experience. So I'm going to give you those ones to help us be precise. Because being precise is often important, because when we were learning things, you know, in high school, we covered a lot of subjects in very shallow amount of that stuff. They touch on something and then they go to something else to give you a, you know, an introduction to all kinds of different human subjects. But, you know, you're not, you know, you haven't spent 50 years studying that one subject. So you're not an expert in it at all. You know, you might know a few words of vocabulary, but So you should pretty much consider yourself not to be an expert unless, you went to university and took 4 or 5 years of engineering, so that you could go work for an engineering firm and do engineering. But, other than these kind of ones that you specialize for extra years, consider yourself, I don't know. Maybe I said it like too much, like that's too, it just was kind of grindy. But consider yourself, I'm a student. I'm a student. And even after you've been studying something for 25 or 50 years, maybe you would still say, I'm a student. I'm still a student. Maybe I could be your teaching assistant and help you, but I'm still learning things. And even the things, well, would Boyle's law ever change? Might be a question. In other words, does it hold true everywhere in the universe? Well, I mean, we haven't traveled everywhere in the universe, so it's not like you send a spaceship there and check to see if Boyle's law applies. But pretty much we're going to say, yes, it's going to apply everywhere on every planet of the universe that has an atmosphere, a gas atmosphere. We would be incredibly surprised if Boyle's law didn't apply in our universe on another planet. We would be so surprised, we would be astounded. We would be astounded. And then, everyone would go to work right away. Why isn't Boyle's law applying here? What is different here than on Earth, where we discovered Boyle's law applied everywhere? And then you would go on a wild goose chase of ideas trying to figure it out. A huge mystery. And what if the answer was it was paranormal? It was paranormal activity. What if, well, just leave it at that. A paranormal could be anything. Witches, genies, the Q from Star Trek: The Next Generation. If you were doing too many magic mushrooms and you started talking to the machine elves that you can only hear when you're on magic mushrooms, and they told you that this reality is kind of controllable by them because they're like the nanites that designed the holodeck in Star Trek, and they have a specific, incredible amount of information about designing holographic matrix simulations, and then, you might end up there and call it Earth or something. Okay, so anyway, we were talking about Boyle's law. Now, what about some of the theories of science that we haven't separated? To be precise, they're still theories and they're not empirically proved. The answer I'm looking for is, what if someone found it too difficult to comply with the theory that they were telling people was the truth? So Boyle's law wasn't working on one planet on the far side of this galaxy. When we went there, it didn't work. So we were looking for some reason why it wouldn't work. And what if someone was just um, fucking with our world because they were like Q? They had incredible powers of manifesting things. Anyways, you could start playing all kinds of games with people. So if paranormal things are going on, does it mean that people are fucking with you? Well, if you turn to the spiritual literature, there are stories of people who have occult powers who have been seen to be fucking with other people using paranormal abilities. And this was known in the Harry Potter Hogwarts Magics series of shows, of movies. Bad magicians, led by Voldemort, the Horrible, were doing horrible things with their superpowers. Horrible things with their superpowers. And so, how do you deal with a galaxy full of people who potentially could develop spiritual superpowers? Would there be like a mad rush for people to get these spiritual superpowers? So they went on a quest, and they heard that in some pulp novel, like a fictional novel, it was a fictional novel, but they heard about this substance. They didn't even know if it was real or just made up by the author's imagination, but they heard of this substance, and they wanted a quest to find this substance because they wanted to try it out and see if it would give them a spiritual superpower. And lo and behold, well, then they had a whole pile of stories about, all this stuff. Is it true? The answer is it could be. So then this kind of ties into my talk recently about practical witchcraft. And how do you protect yourself from unknown witches or genies or magicians or wizards or elves that have got these abilities already? And if you get paranoid and they think that people are following you, well, you might be more inclined to believe people really were going to use spiritual superpowers to hurt you, given the fact there seems to be billions of humans on this planet and, billions and billions of stars up there in the sky. So, the odds are that there's already a Voldemort out there. Odds are, this is one planet out of billions of planets. What's the chance that a Voldemort is not going to... Anyway, out of all those places, what's the most likely place to find a Voldemort? It's not going to be here. There's got to be bigger planets, bigger numbers of people or something. Anyway, the whole thing is that you can't really say that Voldemort won't appear in your reality. Or maybe it's Darth Vader that appears in your reality. Or someone like this. I know, but that's just fictional movies. It doesn't happen in real life. Somebody might say. But, I'm a student. I don't know. You're making big assumptions like you've studied this for 100 years or something. And you've never observed this particular phenomenon, like a Voldemort. So you're going to go with, no, it's just a everyday kind of person who's using technology to do this. I don't believe in telepathy, but I do believe that if you put enough electrodes all around a person's skull that you'll, like, you know, you could put, like, with miniaturization, I don't know, let's go 10,000 electrodes here. That you could be constantly scanning the brain waves of this person and somehow see patterns in the brain with certain words and certain feelings. You could study it, and then you could end up being able to read the person's mind by totally scanning the brain, looking for electrical patterns. And then you could take the person's thought forms, what they wanted to do, and then, you know, right along there or something, you're going to use these magnified thought forms to do something supernatural. So, law of attraction and COVID-19. Someone would say that if you have COVID-19, you attracted it. Now, no rational person would want COVID-19 on purpose. It's a horrible flu. Nobody wants a horrible flu. So, what about you attracted the COVID-19, the stuff that you don't want, and you ended up getting it? Someone would say that you have a belief, and that belief has a certain vibration, and if the belief is that you're vulnerable to COVID-19 if it happens to be breathed on you, that you are actually attracting COVID-19 to you. The belief is. Because it's your belief. That's what they would say if I'm being pandit. So, you know, don't shoot me if I give you, like, information from the experts that we've got. Even Pandit doesn't know everything, but he's read a lot of scholars over the years, and, you know, compared to your knowledge, Pandit knows a lot more books and authors and things, because Pandit's much older than you. And Pandit's been busy its whole life. So, you're going to say, okay, well, this sucks horribly. I've attracted COVID-19 by law of attraction. And then another one of my friends would say, well, you can become conscious of what it is in you that has attracted it. And then you want to know, well, you know, if I can de-energize this belief and not make it mine anymore, will the COVID-19 go away? Pandit has consulted a few authors that he's consulted over the years, and he says the authors of these books of expertise in this field do not agree 100%. Whether you will not have COVID-19 anymore, even if you realize the truth about this. So, now, how did these beliefs get energized and put into your consciousness? The answer is you somehow acquired this information. Maybe you were watching the news and they told you about a new horrible disease. And, you watch the news every day and you saw all kinds of information about this new disease. Do you believe it's real? Because the news told you that, and they showed you some videos of, like a hospital emergency ward, and someone standing there who says that they're a professor of medicine from Johns Hopkins University, which is implied to be a prestigious place, and we're telling you the truth. This is like the national expert on the subject. So it just becomes part of something that, it's not only do you see it there, but people are talking about it. So, it just becomes, one of those diseases that you've got marked in your consciousness as diseases that I could get. Your mind gets very good at about 11 years of age at figuring out these things that, diseases are real, they're horrible, people die, and I'm a people, which means I could die, so I better know every single thing there is to know about things that people die from. And then I'm going to make smart choices on what to do about these risks. Now, strangely, I took a course in university about radiation biology, the biology of how radiation affects living things. And one thing that the professor gave us was a printed list of the real risk of certain human activities, so that you could compare and contrast the ones that have the most risk to killing you or making you horribly maimed, and which other activities are less dangerous. So when I got that information, I definitely incorporated it into my database of decision making about to do this or not to do this. Because I was really worried, not worried, it wasn't worried, that's the wrong word. Old-fashioned word is worry. Concerned is still a worry. It was love of knowledge that would be admired for I think it really is a fear. It's a fear and a love of knowledge, and this is a subject that's important. You put a star here, this is important. Information about stuff that is going to make me sick. The only thing worse than dropping dead right now is having a long, drawn-out sickness before you drop dead. People have an aversion to feeling sick on their stomach or anywhere else. People don't enjoy the feeling of being sick. So, everyone knows this, it's common. So COVID-19 and the law of attraction, to sum up, if you get COVID-19, you're probably like everyone else on this planet, you're susceptible. Why is that? Because, some people say I got 2 or 3 colds in a winter. Where I live, that's not that uncommon to have somebody that seems to be having a bad year with colds. Some people say I never get a cold, but they're out drinking one night, they drink too much tequila and they barf their guts out, and then they do dry heaves. So people understand. I rarely get a cold. Somebody might say, it's like they feel blessed. But, people don't like the dry heaves. So people understand, everyone understands that we have an aversion to feeling sick or feeling pain. So if we're going to work on this idea that everyone is susceptible to COVID-19 because of the law of attraction, which is we're putting it out there that this is true, that we're susceptible to COVID-19. If that belief is energized and it's really part of your core beliefs, then you're susceptible to COVID-19. And stay tuned for another video when we talk about maybe what to do about this problem.